Hey guys, it's Matt from Grad School Sucks, and I'm here to talk to you today about how to improve your writing quality, specifically for academic or scientific writing. So we're going to go over 5 ways to improve your academic writing. We're going to start with tip number 1, and that is write every day. I know that's the hardest thing to do, especially when you're first getting started in academic writing, say in grad school. But establishing a daily habit of academic writing is incredibly important in order to make academic writing a skill and a habit that you can carry into the future, into your career. When you're starting your daily writing habit, I think the first thing that you should do is to find a time of day that works best for you, where you're most creative and you're most intellectually clear, where you can put words on the page and you feel great about what you write. For me, that's in the morning. I like to do it between, say, 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. But for many other people, it could be late at night after their kids go to bed. It really doesn't matter when you do it, just as long as you have a chunk of time that you can dedicate to writing and you can do it consistently day after day. Now, one of the things that I would recommend people try whenever they get into a writing routine is to turn off their phone, eliminate the email, get every other distraction out of the way. Because what you want to do is you want to allow yourself to become bored. You want to become so bored during your writing time that it's more interesting and stimulating to actually start writing. That is one great way that you can get over writer's block. So, how long should you write for your writing sitting, you might be asking? Well, it really depends on a number of constraints. How much time in the day do you have to write? What are the other activities that you have to cram into your busy schedule as a grad student? I like to, when possible, write for at least an hour to an hour and a half in a sitting. And I know that sounds like a long period of time to some people, but I think getting into that hour to hour and a half point is really important, because typically for most people, the first 30 to 45 minutes of your writing time is going to be eaten up by just getting reacquainted with your writing. What were the thoughts that you were having? What still needs to happen? Typically, you may not even write anything meaningful for the first 10 or 15 minutes. You may just be getting caught up on what you've been doing and trying to stir up new ideas in order to keep you going. So if you can get that hour to an hour and a half block of writing, I think it'll really serve you well in order to create a great habit of putting words on the page every day. So start with something manageable. Maybe you only have 30 to 45 minutes. Just go with that. Get as much done as you can. Then the next day, come back, start from where you left off, and keep on going. You can build over time the more you get acquainted with sitting down for a long period of time and putting words on the page. For example, whenever I was working on my dissertation, I typically wrote between 3.5 to 4 hours every morning in one sitting without breaks. I mean, maybe I would take a bathroom break or grab another coffee or something, but if you can stay in that frame of mind for an extended period of time, you will get a lot more done than if you just broke up your time into chunks throughout the day. Because again, every time you switch tasks, you lose energy and you lose time getting reacquainted with what you were doing. So writing tip number 2, never stare at a blank page. Start with an outline. Now, most people, whenever you're starting a new document, obviously you start from a blank page and there's nothing you can do about it. But many people get trapped staring at that blank page and they end up thinking, what do I write first? And if you're writing an academic article, you're probably going to start thinking about the introduction. And you're probably going to think, what is the first part of the introduction? Well, the first part of the introduction is typically where you identify a problem that exists out in the world and you propose some kind of solution for learning more about that problem. Now, what I would recommend is actually not starting with that, but instead starting with an outline. For example, every time I've written a manuscript, after I started this habit of doing this, I start and I write out the words introduction, methods, results, discussion. I write out those 4 words for every paper because those are the headings in every scientific manuscript that most of us are going to write. Now, why do I choose those 4 words to structure the paper? After I write those 4 words down, I simply expand each one of those sections, thinking about what my paper is going to be, and I add new headings underneath each one of them. Maybe I know the 3 main topics that I need to cover in my introduction for my literature review. Maybe I already know some of the measures that I'm going to be using for my study, so I could add those into the method section. Maybe I already know what my results are, and I can go ahead and put in each phase of my analysis into the results section. If you already know the results, you probably already know a little bit what you want to talk about in the discussion section. So you can begin adding those headings in as well. And then once you have that framework, it becomes much, much easier to sit down and start writing on any given section. I know many people want to be the kind of writer that can start with a fresh page and begin just typing away, and they type all the way through their introduction, and then once they're done with their introductions, they go on to their methods. But the reality is that that is not an extremely productive form of writing. You are forcing yourself to stay in one spot of the narrative in your paper, regardless of where your head is, what you've been thinking about that day, what feels most pressing to you. So instead, if you have that outline, you can come back and you can go to any section. Maybe you just thought of a limitation that you're going to have to address up front in the limitation sections before the reviewers start hacking away at it. So you can go ahead and just jump into your limitation section and add it right in. You don't have to do a lot of work later trying to dissect, oh, what was this paragraph about? No, you already know because you put it in the right heading because you already had headings in your paper. So don't start with a blank page, start with an outline. Tip number 3, write with a specific goal in mind. Each morning when I sit down and I write, I open up a review comment in either Google Docs or Microsoft Word, and I literally type out what I want to accomplish for that sitting, whether it's half an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then I use that review comment as an anchor to keep myself tied to accomplishing a specific task. Now, why would you want to do this? Well, if you're writing a paper and you have the outline already there, you're probably going to be drawn into whatever is the easiest task at the time. Maybe that's the describing the sample that you have, or maybe that's talking about the measures or doing some piece of the introduction, or maybe it's just working on a figure. And obviously, some days you want to be able to pick the easiest next task and just stick with that. But if you know what's most pressing, and you go ahead and set it as an anchor for yourself. I use a comment in a paper, you can write it down, you can have it in your head, but if you have a specific thing that you want to accomplish in a writing sitting, you're much more likely to actually follow through and get done and make progress so that you can push your paper forward. So another thing for this is I typically have a review comment in my documents that has an ongoing list of things that need to be done. Things that have been bothering me or floating in my mind, or they're just obvious next steps that I need to accomplish. And this is great because when I open up a document at the start of my writing session, I can immediately see what the things are that I need to start working on, and I can pick one that I'm inspired by, or maybe one that is not that difficult because maybe I have low energy that day, and then you can just go right into it. Alright, so the 4th tip to improving your academic writing is to track your words per day. Yes, so you can actually manually track your words, the words that you add to the page over time. And I recommend doing this specifically if you're doing something, a bigger work, like a master's thesis, or you're writing your dissertation for your doctoral program. This will really help you get a frame of reference for your own productivity and how long it's going to take you to accomplish different sections of your paper. Now, I can already hear some objections to this, specifically that writing isn't always about putting words on the page, specifically scientific writing. Sometimes we'll spend an entire day just condensing a document down from, say, I don't remember how long articles are. Whatever, 25 pages down to 20 pages. And so you'd actually have negative words per day, but you're still making progress towards your goal. So obviously, there are objections that come into play. Another thing could be that you are doing a figure for your results, and clearly that doesn't quite add to the word count depending on how you put it in there. But still, it's important to track your words per day so that you know what kind of progress you're making every day. And so you can look back on your writing session and you can say, today was a good day because I was trying to write a lot of words and I did write a lot of words. Or you can look back and you can say, I really wasn't on point today. Maybe I was distracted by something. Maybe the setting was really throwing me off. Maybe I had stayed up late and watched TV or something, so I'm tired and I put out half the number of words that I'm used to. The actual numbers don't matter, but what does matter is developing that awareness where you know what you're able to put out during your writing sessions, and then you can hold yourself accountable to those metrics over time. Also, another great thing is that if you do keep putting words on the page and you do improve your words per day over time, you can actually show that progress to yourself, and you can make note of it as you continue to improve or as you get further into your dissertation. You can show that you are doing more and more each day because you're becoming a stronger writer and you're putting out more and more words. Obviously, they need to be quality words, but you can always edit in a later phase. Most writing is about pushing through that rough draft and just getting that rough draft out there, getting your thoughts out there so that you can critique them yourself later when you're editing. Now, I want to give a disclaimer. This is not something that I do in my own writing practice. I did track my words per day back when I was writing my master's thesis, and when I wrote my dissertation for my doctoral program, I did track roughly my pages per day. But I was not stringent about tracking my words per day, and that may be something I return to in the future, again, specifically for a larger project like writing a book or a very long manuscript. Something that you're going to be returning to day after day, and it would be great to be able to see how much progress you're actually making each day that you put the work in. So my fifth tip for improving your writing quality as an academic and as a researcher is to find an accountability group. Now, what do I mean by an accountability group? Your accountability group could be, a group of other writers in your cohort. It could be some collaborators that you have, or it could be someone you don't even know. You can find accountability in a lot of places, but I would encourage you to find accountability with people you don't know, people who don't have skin in your game, meaning your academic mentor is probably not a great pick as an accountability partner. Obviously, you're going to be talking about your writing with them a lot, but they're there to, push their academic career forward. They want to see your work producing results that help them, and they will in turn help you. It's really best to find people that have no attachment to you, that you can talk about your writing struggles with, and they can give you critical feedback as a third party, or they can hold you accountable and say, it doesn't sound like you showed up to your writing time every day, what's going on? Whenever you talk with your academic mentor, things can get a little bit sticky. Some mentors will be open to hearing that kind of a conversation. Other mentors probably won't even care to have that kind of a conversation with you. So I encourage you to find a writing group that you can talk to. Now, the first place you should look is your own university. Universities often have writing groups. Typically they're held on like a semesterly basis. Maybe they pick 10 or 12 weeks out of each semester that the group meets. And oftentimes these will be students in your position who are finishing a master's thesis or finishing a dissertation, and they want to be held accountable to, putting words on the page, getting that project done. And by having that kind of group interaction where you discuss the progress that you're making over time, that it'll create a dialogue, an ongoing dialogue in your own mind about, are you actually making progress every day? Because if you go to this writing group, let's say once a week, you've got it in your calendar, and you show up and you have nothing to show for yourself for the past week, it's not going to feel that great. And you begin to feel a little bit responsible for the energy of the group. And that energy can be contagious. And so if people bring progress to the group each week, that can be inspiring to other group members, and you can help other people with their writing just by getting your own writing done and talking about it. So I have personal experience in a writing group. After I completed my dissertation, I was working on various manuscripts for my research professor position that I held after graduating, and there was a lot to do with that research professor position that did not involve writing, and it became more and more difficult for me to get my writing done. Even though writing was important, it wasn't the most important thing for that position. So I joined a writing group, and I met with people on a weekly basis, and we discussed how much we were getting done. And it did not improve my writing in the short term. For the first couple weeks, I produced probably about the same every week, which is not a lot, maybe a couple hundred words per week. But after I got into the flow of the writing group and it became part of my routine, I began writing more because I wanted to show up with something. And that's really what accountability is for. It's a group of people that maybe they don't necessarily know you personally or care about you at a personal level, but they all know that everyone has the same goal, and that's to write, to get our writing goals done. And so if you have that kind of a connection, it can often spur you into even more writing than you'd be doing otherwise. So thank you for watching. Hit the like button if you like this video, hit subscribe if you want to see more, and feel free to send this video to a friend who you think would benefit from it. And remember, if things aren't working, if you aren't making progress towards your writing goals, don't keep things the same. You got to change something up. Maybe that means you give up Netflix in the evenings. Maybe that means you find a writing group at your university that you can get connected with. Maybe you just develop better work habits in order to get everything in. If you continue to do the same thing, you're probably going to continue to get the same result. So I encourage you to pick something from what I said and just give it a try. See what happens. Stick with it for a couple weeks and let me know how it goes. Thanks, and have a great day.